Hi class, how was your vacation? That's great! Alright, so your learning target for today is to solve algebraic equations using the properties of equality. So those are the properties that we learned in the last video, and we're going to use those to solve equations. Alright, so let's solve this first equation. So we have 5x minus 6 equals 29. So what we want to do here, first we want to undo this subtraction here. So this is known as a two-step equation because we have something multiplying or dividing by x, in this case multiplying, and we have something adding or subtracting to x, in this case subtracting. So in a two-step equation, the first thing we have to do is undo that subtraction. So let's rewrite the equation. So we had 5x minus 6, and then to undo that, we are going to add 6. So to undo the minus 6, we add 6. And then we have equals 29. One thing you have to make sure, if you do something to one side of the equal sign, here's the equal sign, we did something to the left side of the equal sign, now we have to do the same thing to the right side of the equal sign. So we added 6, we need to add 6 over here. Now, what property did we just use to do that? If you said the addition property of equality, you are correct. So we used, and I'll use abbreviations, the addition property of equality. So we use the addition property of equality here because that says if you add the same number to both sides of the equal sign, to both sides of the equation, then those two are still equal. Now let's simplify this. So we are going to combine like terms. So we have a minus 6 here and a plus 6 here. Minus 6 plus 6, those two just cancel out. They give you 0. So that leaves you with just 5x. And the minus 6 and plus 6 just cancel out. Some people like to just throw a little slash in there to show that they're gone. We're not using them anymore because we undid that, so they both cancel each other out. Then we have the equal sign and 29 plus 6. 29 plus 6 is 35. Now we need to write down what we just did. We technically didn't do a property, we just simplified. And by simplifying, we combined like terms. So combine like terms. I'll abbreviate. Alright, so we combined like terms there. Next, we see that this is 5x. Whenever you have a number next to a variable, they are multiplying. So this is saying 5 times x equals 35. So if 5 times x equals 35, we need to find out what x is. And to do that, we need to do the opposite. We need to undo it. So what we're going to do here is we're going to divide both sides by 5. We were multiplying by 5, so we're going to do the opposite and divide by 5. And which property did we use for that? Correct. The division property of equality. And so we divided both sides by 5. The 5's will cancel out because 5 divided by 5 is just 1. So that leaves just x. And then 35 divided by 5 is 7. And for that last step, the property that we used, again, we didn't really use a property. All we did was simplify. So that's how you solve a two-step equation, and we are going to be naming all of the steps that we take to make sure that we know what we're doing when we take them. So if you use a property like the addition property of equality or the division property of equality, you need to write those down. And if you're not using a specific property, then you're probably combining like terms or just simplifying in some way. Before we move on to the next example, I want to show you how to check your work. Hopefully you already know how to do this, but if not, here is a quick example. Alright, so to check your work, notice that I rewrote the problem, 5x minus 6 equals 29, and we know that x equals 7. So this is where we use the substitution property of equality, which, if you remember, said if you have a equals b, or in this case x equals 7, you can go back and plug in b for a. So you can go back and plug in 7 for x. So let's do that. So we have 5, and then x is now 7. So times 7. I'll just put it in parentheses so we can see that x became 7. So 5 times 7 minus 6 equals 29. And then use the order of operations. 5 times 7 is 35. Minus 6 equals 29. 35 minus 6 is 29. If you come out and get that the left number equals the right number, then you did this problem correctly. So we did it right. So on tests and quizzes, you can pretty much guarantee 100 by checking your work and plugging everything in. Alright, so here's another example. So in this problem we have x over 4 plus 7 equals negative 1. So x over 4 is a fraction, but it's also the same thing as saying x divided by 4. So we have x divided by 4 here and plus 7. So remember, in a two-step equation, undo the addition or subtraction first. So again, we're going to rewrite the equation, x over 4 plus 7, and then we're going to undo that addition. So we had plus 7, so we need to do the opposite and minus 7. And then that equals negative 1. We did minus 7 to the left side, so now we need to do minus 7 to the right side. And now we need to write what property we used. Well, we subtracted from both sides, so that means we used the subtraction property of equality. Then we combine like terms. So the plus 7 minus 7 cancel out to leave just x over 4 equals, and then negative 1 minus 7 will give us negative 8. And like we said, we combined like terms. Now we have x divided by 4 equals negative 8. So now we need to undo this division of 4. So again, rewrite the equation, x divided by 4, and then instead of writing the equal sign, again, we need to undo the division. The opposite of addition is multiplication. So we say times 4 here. And we have equals negative 8. We multiplied by 4 on the left side, so we need to multiply by 4 on the right side. We multiplied both sides, so that means we use the multiplication property of equality. And then we notice the divide by 4 times 4, those cancel out. Whenever you undo something, it cancels out, leaving x equals, and then negative 8 times 4 will give us negative 32. That's your answer, and remember you can go back, check your work by plugging it back in to the original equation and seeing if it works. Alright, one more example here. So, we have x plus 3 all being divided by 2, and that equals 4. So, when an entire equation is being divided by a number, that's the thing we have to undo first, is the division. So, let's rewrite our equation. X plus 3 all divided by 2. And we need to undo that division. We do that by doing the opposite and multiplying by the number that's dividing. So by 2. And we have the equals 4 here. And again, that is being multiplied by 2. Because what we do to the left side, we have to do to the right side. And again, write down the property you used. We use the multiplication property of equality. And notice, when we do this, we have the divide by 2, dividing by 2 here, and here we're multiplying by 2. These are opposites, so these two cancel each other out. So we can just cross these out. That leaves what's on top. So we're left with x plus 3. The most common mistake I see people make with this is they still multiply the top by 2. But we're not. All we're doing is multiplying by 2 so we can cancel out this 2 to leave what's left. So this is just x plus 3. Then, on the right side, we have 4 times 2, which is 8. And all we did there was simplify. Then we have x plus 3 equals 8. So that's addition, so we need to do the opposite and subtract. So we have x plus 3 and do the opposite, minus 3. Equals 8. and we minus 3 on the left, minus 3 on the right. So now we combine like terms. 3 minus 3 is 0, just cancels out to leave x. And 8 minus 3 is 5. Now let's make sure we put the properties in we used for this step right here. We did the subtraction property of equality because we subtracted from both sides. And final step, we combined like terms. And we left with our final answer as x equals 5. Again, you can go back, plug it in to make sure it works. Always a good idea. Alright, please make sure to take notes on all of this and submit them straight to eBackpack as soon as you finish your notes. Don't wait till class. Do it now. Have a good night.